Hey there, YugiTube! What is going on? Bobby from Capital CCG here with the latest. We have big news coming from TCGplayer in direct response to Washington, D.C.'s postal debates. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit subscribe, smash the thumbs up button, and check out the description below for ways to help out the channel. Let's jump in. So this is a newsletter that just went out to TCGplayer sellers, and it affects everyone in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community as well as the trading card game community as a whole. Let's jump in and just start reading. Dear seller, TCGplayer wants to let all of our sellers know that we are committed to supporting you during these uncertain times. As the USPS experiences difficulties with their shipping times and operations, we want to provide you with support and expanded seller protections. TCGplayer has been closely monitoring the developing USPS discussion occurring in Washington, D.C. around the political issues causing these delays. We understand that this results in additional stress on you as sellers. If you don't know what developing USPS discussions TCGplayer is talking about, let's jump over to the news. A little warning, this is a bit political. So, this discussion has been going on for months. The post office has been in a decline since President Trump first started claiming that expanded mail-in voting during COVID-19 would cause rampant voter fraud. And Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, who was appointed to the post by President Trump after donating millions to Trump's campaign and to other Republicans, has been accused of deliberately undermining public confidence in the service to deter people from mail-in voting. Trump also openly admitted that he believes increased ballot access would be bad for Republicans. Keep in mind, though, mail-in voting is the same system that the military and absentee voting has been using for decades. Several states have been using this for a long time, and all studies show that mail-in voting has no noticeable increases in fraud when compared to in-person voting. It also shows that mail-in voting doesn't lean towards one political affiliation or another. Trump himself has even voted absentee by mail from the White House, as have a number of his staffers. This has led to Trump blocking coronavirus aid in an attempt to get Congress to defund the USPS. And now, USPS postal workers are reporting that sorting machines are being removed from processing facilities. Their overtime to operate the sorting machines was already being cut, and that was causing delays by itself. Now imagine what the delays are going to look like with postal employees sorting mail the old-fashioned way by hand. And now that we're all caught up, let's go ahead and finish that email. TCGplayer goes on to say, read on to learn about how we are responding to these challenges with the USPS and our plans to assist you in resolving shipping delays. TCGplayer is increasing estimated delivery times. To further support our sellers, we are extending all of our estimated delivery times. We will begin updating our buyer transactional emails today. The day of this recording is August 14th, 2020. To replace 6 to 8 days for shipping, instead, say 9 days. Our technology team will be updating our shopping cart to reflect this update on August 19th. See the chart below for specifics. So they've included a chart with the email outlining shipping types and their changes. So for domestic standard, as they said above, 6 to 8 days is now 9 days. So that's any normal mail sent within the US. Domestic expedited, it was 3 to 4 days. Now it's an even 4 days. International, this is probably the largest change, has gone from 6 to 21 days all the way to 8 and 24 days. So a whole 3 extra days tacked onto that. They go on to say, our messaging cart will be updated on August 19th. In the event that you are contacted by a buyer who has not received their order after the current estimated delivery date, please ask them to wait 2 additional days for their order to arrive. This will allow for the current USPS delays and our updates to go live. So they're acknowledging that this has already started. They just haven't instituted it until today. So even for orders that have already been placed, they're more or less putting this policy into effect to protect sellers. They go on to say, how will TCGplayer protect me from negative feedback? TCGplayer will step in to block any negative feedback associated with late or missing packages as long as the order was shipped within our 48-hour shipment window. This isn't old. For you guys out there that don't know how seller shipment works, they are allotted 2 days or 48 hours to actually ship the product. That kind of is their safety net to make sure that they get the product in the mail fast enough and TCGplayer considers it shipped within that time frame. We understand that you are not responsible for delays in handling times after an order has been placed into the mail system, so we will make sure that your feedback rating is protected for events outside of your control. This is a huge change. Before, TCGplayer considered a package in the possession in complete control of the buyer. Of the seller rather. It was the seller's responsibility until the package was delivered to the buyer. Now they're actually putting that responsibility on the USPS, which is a massive shift in actual TCGplayer policy. So in the meantime, our customer service team is working diligently to manage buyer expectations surrounding delivery times. So they're going to be rolling this out to buyers, actually making an effort to change the mentality of the community of TCGplayer to actually shift towards some patience and make these changes known. So they're trying to update what the buyer expects in terms of the shipment time. So they go on to address a few more topics. Missing package seller safeguard. We know that it's not always practical to add tracking to every package, but you are always 100% covered by TCGplayer in the event a buyer reports an order with tracking as missing, but the USPS reports the order as delivered or in limbo. Just follow the process outlined in our Resolving Missing Packages help article, and our customer service team will credit you for the missing order. So even as a buyer, you can search the help articles on TCGplayer, and you can look for this Resolving Missing Packages order, or article rather, and you can look at the outline for all of this. Essentially, TCGplayer expects for the seller to issue a refund and then start a postal investigation. The postal investigation then looks into any fraud, any mistakes on the postal part. They look at the receiver, the sender histories. They look at the GPS tag for the shipping, so if it was actually scanned in at the correct address. Things of that nature. They interview the postal delivery man that actually delivered the package to see if they remember it. It's a pretty long, drawn-out process. Then, once the Postal Service generates the report, it's sent to the buyer, or to the seller, rather. The seller then alerts the TCGplayer help team, and then TCGplayer starts their own investigation, looking at the frequency of these kinds of claims made by the buyer, made by the seller, looking to see if either side is acting unfaithfully and cheating TCGplayer out of their money and cheating the sellers out of their money. Since TCG does cover this type of delivery mistake, they actually pay out the seller, and the seller refunds the money. So they're losing money when this happens. So they take this very seriously. Once the TCGplayer investigation is resolved and finished, then the buyer gets paid back for the refund by TCGplayer. So when this happens, it can actually set the seller back the purchase price for a couple months, depending on how long everything takes to actually flesh out. So it's not an ideal situation, but they do cover it. And again, you can look up this Resolving Missing Packages help article on the help page for TCGplayer. So what happens if the order shows up after it was refunded? If you end up issuing a refund for an order that has not arrived, you will want to make sure to ask the buyer to inform you in the event that the order shows up after the fact. After the buyer reaches back out to you, follow these steps here and our customer service team will ensure the buyer resubmits payment and that you are fully credited for the order. So this has always kind of been a hidden facet for TCGplayer. Most buyers are honest. They're not trying to cheat out the sellers. They're not trying to get free product or refunds. And in that spirit, they've always allowed the buyer to reach out to TCGplayer and issue payment for a late received package. It sounds like TCGplayer is taking some additional steps to protect the buyers, but I haven't actually reviewed this in full detail. It's probably a very similar process before, where the buyer simply reaches out to TCGplayer sales customer support and then does a PayPal payment. And that's how it's always worked. They finish out the letter by saying, "We understand that the current difficulties the USPS is facing is out of our community's control and present many challenges to our sellers. We support your businesses and we will continue to monitor the situation to make further changes and adjustments as needed to provide you with additional support and assistance. Thank you, Team TCGplayer." So when I read that last paragraph, it kind of sounds to me like they are expecting these delays to continue and perhaps get worse, and they are very seriously considering extending these shipping times even further. Well, guys, that wraps up the news, but keep in mind that TCGplayer is keeping many locals alive during this trying time. These new policies, they do help the vendor, yes, probably more than the buyer, but they're necessary, and they're also meant to clarify things for the buyers as well. So don't give up on ordering just because it may take longer. Also, please be nice to your vendors. Most of them are working hard around the clock to keep orders flowing, and the delays are completely out of their hands. So if your order is late, it's probably not their fault. Don't just jump to conclusions, start leaving negative feedback. Reach out to them first, because just like most buyers are honest, most sellers are honest too, and they really do want to help their communities and their customers get the cards and the product that they want and need. So if you do want to help out the Yu-Gi-Oh community and trading card game community as a whole, I'm sure your congressional representatives and senators would love to hear from you. And if you found this video informative or helpful, make sure to hit the subscribe bell, consider becoming a Patreon, or check out my TCGplayer store down in the description below. Peace out, guys.